I'm Chris, you're watching Space Foods, and for those of you who have not watched this channel before, I cover the cellular agriculture industry and why I'm investing in it and helping explain the industry to others who are interested in it and also are interested in investing in it. So thanks for watching my channel and thanks for your support. Today I wanted to talk about, as you can see with the video card in the corner, I just made the decision to sell all of my Tesla stock and put all of that into the cultivated food space because I've built up a huge conviction now over the past 3 months. Yeah, 3 months that I've been researching this space, that this really is the future of food. And so I want to get in now when the technology is still very early, and I wanted to help explain how to build conviction in such an early industry. I have experience investing in Tesla, and I've been following Tesla way before I even started investing in them, but I was working in the clean tech space a long time ago, and so I have an idea of how these new industries grow and how to build that conviction. So I'm going to share my methods for doing that personally for myself, and I hope that they're helpful to you. Okay, so here we have a map of San Francisco. What does this have anything to do with building conviction, Chris? Well, it just so happens that for those of you who don't know and who haven't been following me, I bought a Tesla earlier this year, probably about 6 months ago now, and I've now driven 25,000 kilometers around Canada and the US. And so it just so happens that my new interest in the cellular agriculture space ties in pretty nicely to my goal this year to drive around Canada and the US. There happens to be the conference that really was started by the industry, Cultured Meat Symposium, that is going to be in San Francisco at the end of October. And so they are looking at the next generation of meat, poultry, and seafood. The theme of this conference this year is creativity and commerce. So we are seeing companies embrace the path to commercial scale, creative approaches in brand and consumer marketing, as well as scientific pathways will lead us to commercialization. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at the agenda. Okay, so we can see Time to Evolve, cultivated meat in 2022 and beyond. So from Justin Kolbeck at Wild Type, I've been following them quite a bit. I really like what I've seen from them. Blue Nalu is probably the other big player in the space. So those two companies would be on my radar as ones to invest in. What other kind of panels? Media development for the future. This isn't about communications. This is about how to feed cells on a large scale. Large scale, that's a good indicator. Creative approaches to making cell cultured meat a success. Commerce track presentation. Scalability, again, this is quite similar to large scale. Scalability, regulatory updates, okay. From bioreactor to retail shelf, commercializing the next generation of meat technology. Okay, so the path to commercial scale. So as we can see, and as we saw in the video yesterday, if you haven't watched it, we can see very clearly from this conference, and we can see very clearly based on the schedule, a restaurant chef surfing on a cellular agriculture infrastructure, we can see very clearly kind of where the industry is. So if we look at that VC ladder that we looked at yesterday, we can see there's the different stages of growth. And so we really are, and if we look at all of the different press releases that have come out this year, we can see that, okay, in our desktop research at least, it looks like these companies are getting somewhere. There's been taste tests that are coming out. You can register for a number of these companies. I've put my name down for as many as I possibly can. And so we're really at a point where now we're trying to scale to commercialization, because when you launch commercially, you can't just say, here's a fish in one restaurant, come try it, because you won't have enough. You have to actually get to a certain level of production before you can launch at a meaningful way to then grow your business. So we're still trying to get up to that next level, and probably once we're there, that will get timed probably pretty closely with regulatory approval. Again, right now the only country to allow the sale of cultivated meat is in Singapore, and if you follow what's going on in Singapore, it's still very small scale there, and it actually probably works really well because Singapore is a small place, and so they can launch a lot of products there and taste test them with a good amount of people, but also keep it very contained because it's not going to go outside of Singapore. I think it's super exciting because it means that we're getting so close to that launch in larger markets like the United States. Okay, so let's see. We're going to plan a road trip, and I'm going to be doing some updates, hopefully along the road trip, so that you can follow along. It's probably going to be about 20 hours of driving. Along the way, I do want to do some taste tests. I want to stop and buy some Brave Robot ice cream, which is made with Perfect Day proteins. We'll see what else. I might stop and just see some companies along the way. I have no idea. I'm going to start planning this trip. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a list in my Patreon account, link down below. So if you're interested, or if you have some ideas, you can check that list. That's where I'll put kind of my taste test plan. And if you have anything that you want me to try and do a video on, put a link. This is probably the first thing around building conviction. So 3 things to build conviction that I have when you invest in a new industry. Number 1, learn about the industry, understand as much of it as you can. So I've spent personally the past 3 months reading every book, listening to every podcast, and bringing and trying as many foods as I possibly can. That hasn't been that many, but I've been trying a lot of the vegetarian or the plant-based milks and plant-based foods to see where the plant-based industry is. I've drunk like rice milk and soy milk in the past. I grew up in Asia, so I have a good idea of what that is like, but I'm just trying to understand the market here in North America. Like, what is plant-based milk? And how is that different from what I've kind of grown up drinking, which is soy milk in Asia? So I've been doing a lot of those taste tests, and then I've been doing a lot of the precision fermentation taste tests. So I ordered the CO2 chocolate from Mars, and that has the Perfect Day protein in it. And I ordered the vegan macarons with from the Every Company and Chantal Guyon. Cards in the corner if you're interested in that video. And that's really what gave me a lot of conviction. That brings me to my second point. Second point is you have to try the product. You can't just put your money into something that you don't know about and you haven't tried, right? So the ultimate thing that pushed me to put my money into this industry, again, I'm not picking and choosing companies, but I'm putting my money into these 2 VC firms called Food Science and Agronomics, because I tried that macaron. I ordered the one that was vegan, and I ordered the one made with normal animal chicken eggs, and I couldn't tell the difference. There was some difference in the cream, but it was more the cream they used, not the actual protein, because there were some others that had the same cream and it was the same to me. So I'm going to try that again when I go down to San Francisco. But that really gave me the conviction of, okay, the technology is here in precision fermentation. I can taste it today. So that got me to the point where I was like, okay, I can put my money in here. I believe in this as a technology and as a solution. The other thing I want to do this year, and I don't know if I'll experience it now when I drive down to San Francisco, is I want to try cultivated meat to see where we are at. If I can't try it in San Francisco, I'm going to have to fly to Singapore because that's the only place that you can actually buy it. And so I'm going to go there and check it out. So I'm kind of hoping I'll be able to try something now at this symposium. I'm hoping there'll be some taste tests, but if there's not, then I guess I'll go to Singapore and try the good meat chicken there. So that's my plan, and that's really the second thing to do to build conviction is to taste the product. It's like when I invested in Tesla way back when. I had first gone to the opening of the Beijing store when they opened in China, and when I got to that opening, when I saw the car, it was like, oh wow, this is 100% going to be an incredible company someday. There's no doubt about it. You can just see, like, we have our environmental problems that we're trying to solve, and we're going to solve it. Like, this is a car that runs on batteries, so we're going to solve those environmental problems. Also, the technology was super cool. It's like, it runs on batteries. It's like my iPhone. It is like the iPhone of cars. And so when you just see where the technology trends are going, and you look at your iPhone, you're like, this obviously makes sense. And so why wouldn't people want a car like this? And you just saw all the technology, and it looked really cool. And you look at how they made their stores kind of like an Apple store. And I've been in tech my whole life. I've used Apple most of my life. And it just, that all made sense to me. It was like, yes, this is clearly going to be a huge company one day. But I didn't put my money in until I've rented and actually driven a car and I knew what it was. Because until you do that, even if everything else lines up, even if the step one of understanding the business and understanding all of how things click together and the opportunities, you can't really be sure until you actually try the product. Because I've gone and tried products before that have sucked. And I've driven, for example, electric cars before that suck. And I wouldn't invest in them because they're just bad products. And so at the end of the day, you have to try a product. And for me, I won't invest in something where I don't think the product's going to work and I don't think that I don't love it. Like, I need to love it in order to invest in it. So for me, that's number 2. This is obviously different because I've invested into an entire industry. I haven't picked any companies. So this is also a pretty big risk for me because I've just put my money into the industry and we're going to hope for the best. But because I've built this conviction that we kind of need this technology, I've been able to take that risk. And that leads me to the third reason, which is having your why. Having your why is super important as an investor. It's like if you're an entrepreneur, right? Here's a really good quote from Steve Jobs. Let me just pull it up here. So the quote is, "I hate it when people call themselves entrepreneurs, when what they're really trying to do is launch a startup and then sell or go public so that they can cash in and they can move on. They're unwilling to do the work it takes to build a real company. That's how you really make a contribution and add to the legacy of those who went before. You build a company that will still stand for something a generation or two from now." And if I were to change his words slightly, put my own words in, as an investor, I hate it when people call themselves investors, when what they're really trying to do is cash in on a trend and move on. They're unwilling to do the work it takes to build an industry. That's how you really make a contribution. You add to the legacy of those who went before. You build an industry that will still stand for something a generation or two from now. So for me, my why of investing is I'm trying to make a difference in making the world a more sustainable place. I work in technology, and so when I think about When I think about environmental issues, a lot of those issues are happening because we've run into this problem of scale. And I've talked about this in my last video, but essentially we're trying to grow population, right? And for a lot of the world, we're trying to get people to a much better lifestyle. We want everyone to have a good standard of living, right? Morally, we have such huge inequalities where we have the rich, and if you're born in a lot of the Western world, you fall into that section of people, and we have these people, and they have a really good quality of life, and then we have everyone else. And so we're trying to bring the entire world from being in poverty and bring them into the middle class and the upper middle class, right? Everyone should have a really good standard of life. And that's kind of one of the things we need to do. But how do we do that when the world is burning, we have climate change, everything's falling apart? It's really comes down to an issue of scale, right? So we have a certain level, a certain quality of life, a certain metric that we're trying to hit, a certain standard of living that people have and expect, and that's what we want for everyone. And we've built this economy that maybe works for that standard of living if you have a small number of people. But if you try and scale it up to have that same standard of living for a large number of people, the form of economy that you have isn't going to work. And so what you need to do is you need to completely change how that economy works, and that changes with technology, right? So if we want to support more people, we need to actually change how the economy works and how our technology works to enable that. So ultimately that means we can't drive around gas cars everywhere because it's simply too polluting for everyone to own a car and everyone to drive around and pollute in gas. I grew up in China. I know what that's like. If you're from China, if you're from India, if you're from basically anywhere outside of Europe or North America, you know what air pollution's like, and it's horrible. It sucks. And so we need to transition the entire economy to electric cars in order to solve that problem. And we probably need to take away a lot of cars and put a lot of people into mass transit, because we need to build more denser cities so we can have more people living closer together and not living in these massive big one-family homes like a lot of people do in Canada and the US, right? So again, if we're trying to increase the quality of life for a lot of people, we need to build more dense cities, better transit systems. Of course, we still need electric vehicles. We're going to need them regardless. So these are the things we need to do. And the same thing is the case with food, right? So my why is we need to be able to support these people, our entire 10 billion people who are going to be on Earth in 2050. They need to all have a high quality of lifestyle that you can find in Asia, in Europe, in North America today. That should be the standard that everyone has. And we need to get there for all 10 billion people. So we need to change our transportation systems. We need to change how we build our cities in certain countries, especially North America and Europe. We need to change our food system, right? Because we're using so many resources. Killing a cow is fine if you're feeding a family and you're self-sufficient on your farm. It's fine to maybe get to the next level where you're mechanizing that and you're automating that. But ultimately, if we want to feed however many billions of people, 10 billion people, and we want them all to be able to eat meat, that's a lot of animal cruelty. That's a lot of resource use. It's just the whole system collapses. If you're in tech, you're trying to build an app, and you have a server, maybe it's designed for 3,000 people, or your website, for example. You designed it for 3,000 people, and it becomes super popular, right? Everyone wants to use it, and suddenly there's like 10,000 people trying to get on and your whole website crashes and it's a disaster. And that's kind of my analogy for where we are as a human species. Is some people have achieved this great quality of life, and it's amazing, and everyone wants to be part of it, and we want everyone to have a really good quality of life, but our technology isn't there. It hasn't scaled, right? And so what you do in tech is you say, okay, well, we're going to throw this out the window and we're going to rebuild a whole new thing, and we're going to build that thing for the number of people we're trying to support. So now we realize, oh, this is who we want to support. We want 1 million people to be able to come to our website. Now our technology is here. It can only support 3,000. Maybe if we increase change a few things, do a few hacks, we can get that up to 10,000, or maybe like 1 million. But we can't, maybe up to 100,000, but we can't get it up to 1 million, right? We're trying to serve 1 million users here. And so it's the same way with humanity, with society, with Earth, with our carrying capacity. We're trying to support 10 billion people at a certain quality of life. We can't do that with our current level of technology. It's right here. So we need to build a new level of technology that can support those people. So with the food system, when I look at the food system, I see, we look at our industrialized food system, it's a disaster. And we're expected to grow 50% more meat because people are coming out of poverty and they want to eat meat. And as much as you may want to be vegan, and I understand those reasons very well, I've tried myself, but as much as you want to be, it's not possible. Not everyone's going to agree, and so we need another solution. It's great. If you want to be vegan, please be vegan. If you are vegan, that's great. I really am impressed, and I think it's a wonderful thing. But not all 10 billion people are going to be vegan on their own. We need to revamp the back end of the food system so that they will be, and we need to make it possible that our food system can support at least 10 billion people. Maybe we should design it to support more, but at least 10 billion people. So for me, this is the only possible way. So I've said, okay, my risk level is that we're going to try for this, and if we fail, that's okay, because that's my why. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I did it with Tesla. You can go buy one online in 30 seconds if you really want to. Still a lot of people can't afford it, but ultimately, not everyone should be able to afford a car anyways, because we should have good transit. We should have walking and cities with biking and transit and all of these things. And only a really smaller percentage of people should be able to drive vehicles, because, again, the vehicle as a technology can't scale. So that's my why. Those are the 3 reasons for building conviction. I hope that was helpful. I'm Chris. This is Space Foods. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Again, let me know if there's anything you want me to taste test as I drive down to San Francisco and as I spend some time exploring the Cultivated Meat Symposium. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.